Good evening. Welcome to our February 10th Troutman Town Council meeting. See, we've got some guests in the house and some very young guests, and so great to see some young people. We're still in the midst of a pandemic, but hopefully we're starting to get to this place, as I call COVID normal, and we'll continue to move forward. But thank you all for being here. Thank those who are joining us virtually. We will follow through our agenda as presented. If you didn't get one, it should have been outside. But Council, you have your packets and your information. I will start by asking Councilman Paul Hinkle to provide us an invocation, followed by our pledge, and I would ask everyone to please stand as we recite our pledge.
We may bow our heads for a minute, please. Lord, we thank you for allowing us to meet this evening to discuss the people's business of the town of Troutman. We ask that you be with us in making our decisions and carrying on discussions, that what we do and say is pleasing in your sight. We ask for those in our country who are still suffering in one way or another, that you bring them peace of mind and be with them, and bring them back to full spirit, if it be thy will. We ask that you also please continue to be with us, world, as we have certain conflicts going on that we hope are handled in a diplomatic manner and do not erupt into something more violent that can result in death. We ask that you remind us that we are civilized people, and we need to get along with all of our neighbors, and hopefully live in peace. For all these and the things that you feel we may need, Lord, we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for following along in our agenda. And at this time, Council, you have the agenda. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Staff, Ms.
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if we would like to add a closed session for acquisition of property, General Statute 143-318.11A5.
Okay, Council, there's been a request to add a closed session at the end, according to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5. Any objections to adding that closed session? Okay. If not, then I'll ask that there be a motion to approve the agenda with the recommended closed session.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made by Mr. Now, seconded by Mr. Hinkle. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will follow along our agenda. The next item on the agenda is our consent items. These are included as routine items that the council will be approving with one motion. There will be no separate discussion on those items unless requested by council. We've got several sets of minutes along with a approval for a North Carolina Department of Records retention and disposition schedule, approval of an agreement with Miracle Homes for time reduction of housing units, and approved Calvin Creek Amenity Center facade, approval of surplus and sale unused tasers, as well as the approve of a revised town policy number 16 and approval of town policy 62, and lastly, an approval of resolution 0622 titled Resolution in Recognition of Daniel Hemrick, NASCAR's 2021 Xfinity Series champion. Council, if there's no changes, is there a motion to approve our consent?
Make a motion to approve the consent.
Motion is made to approve our consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item is introductions, recognitions, and presentations. We will start with a recognition in memory of former town council members. First is Miss Jenny Klontz, and followed by Mr. James Jimmy Troutman. I will read our resolution for each of our former council members. The first resolution, I may need my glasses for this. See, Felina, I am getting a little older. First resolution is in memory of Jenny Lee Moore Klontz. States, whereas the Town Council of the Town of Troutman, North Carolina, wishes to record their deepest sorrow over the passing of Jenny Lee Moore Klontz on December 9th, 2021. And whereas Jenny Klontz, a loving wife, mother, grandmother, and friend, was a lifelong resident of Iredell County and a graduate of Troutman High School. And whereas Jenny Klontz was an active member in her church, and her dedication to serving others showed through working on numerous church committees, helping with fundraising events, and singing in the church choir. And whereas Jenny Klontz, along with her late husband, Frank Klontz, owned and operated Quality Aluminum Works in Troutman for over 35 years. Whereas the Town Council is grateful for her contributions and her outstanding citizenship in our community, serving approximately 18 years total on the town's governing board, formerly known as the Board of Aldermen. And now, therefore, in recognition of Jenny Klontz's contributions to the town of Troutman, surrounding community, I.T. Ross Young, Mayor of the town of Troutman, along with this town council, its town citizens hereby express our deepest appreciation of her service and extend to her family our sincere sympathy upon her passing. Adopted this, actually it's the 13th day of January we had then. We weren't able to present it, but I'd like to present it to the family today. I don't know who's, we have members here, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's both an honor and a privilege for the person selected to represent their fellow citizens on the town board. I'm certain that Ms. Jenny, that was her true sentiments as well. Unfortunately, my wife looks after her 86-year-old father Tuesdays and Thursdays of this week. So she unfortunately sends her regrets that she was not here for this, but we appreciate your recognition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll present this to you now.
Thank you.
The next resolution I'd like to read is in memory of James, or I call Jimmy K. Troutman. It states, whereas the Town Council of the Town of Troutman wishes to record their deepest sorrow over the passing of James Jimmy Troutman on December 21st, 2021. And whereas Jimmy Troutman, loving husband, father, grandfather, uncle, friend, was a lifelong resident of the town of Troutman and graduate of Troutman High School. And whereas Jimmy Troutman was a very dedicated and active member in his church, where he worked on numerous church committees and loved singing in the church choir and other groups. And whereas Jimmy Troutman, along with his wife, Betty Jean, were honored for their outstanding citizenship as the Town of Troutman 2021 Citizens of the Year, and whereas the Troutman Town Council is grateful for his past leadership, knowledge, and contributions to the town, serving in various capacities as a town employee for 28 years before retiring in 2007, followed by serving on various town boards and committees and the town council. Now, therefore, in recognition of Jimmy Troutman's contributions to the town of Troutman and surrounding community, I, T. Ross Young, Mayor of the town of Troutman, and this town council, town citizens hereby express our deepest appreciation of his service and extend to his family our sincere sympathy upon his passing this January 13th, also 2022. I know Betty Jean's here. Love you to.
I would just like to say thank you very much for the beautiful memory in his honor.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd just like to say very quickly, if I may, because I know some people may leave in the next few minutes, but having served with Jim as town administrator and later on the town board, town council, no one loved this town more and worked harder for this town than Jimmy. He was our first full-time employee. He got the ball rolling, and I remember those days, and very honored to have known him, worked with him, even through our church that we attended together, as well as his service to the town. And town is a much better, this is a much better town for having Jimmy born, lived in this town, and served this town in several various functions that he did. And I'd like to further add that I did serve with Jenny Klontz the whole time she was on the council. I'm sorry, there may have been a time, a little overlap there when I did not run and left the council for a little bit before returning. But I served most of the time with her, that she was on the council, and found her to be a genuine, good, decent lady that ran for the council to serve, and which she did with honor. And she always kept me on my toes, and I enjoy people that do that. And she was a spirited, well-motivated lady that, again, I am also am honored and have been honored to know her and to serve with her in her public service to the town. So both these people, I am sorry to see that they have passed on, but as we say, I know they're in a much better place. But again, Troutman is a much better town for having had Jenny in the leadership role, and Jimmy as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hinkle, for your comments. Again, it's sad to have two of our former council members passing, but more importantly, really two good people in the town of Troutman. And so we really appreciate their service. We appreciate the families who have supported them during their time as they provided service to our community. So thank you so much. The next recognition is a resolution in recognition of Daniel Hemrick, NASCAR's 2021 Xfinity Series champion. The resolution reads, whereas Daniel Hemrick, born January 27th, 1991, is a native of Kannapolis, North Carolina, currently residing in Troutman, North Carolina with his wife, Kenzie, and daughter, Ren. I believe I hear Ren. Whereas Hemrick, at age 5, began his career competing in go-kart racing at Concord Speedway with 11 championships by the age of 10, moving up to short track racing, earning multiple victories. And whereas Hemrick entered the NASCAR circuit in 2013 in the Truck Series, making his debut at Martinsville Speedway before joining NTS Sports full-time in 2015, moving up the ranks to the Xfinity Series driving for Richard Childress Racing in 2017. In 2018, Hemrick made his debut in the NASCAR Cup Series, becoming full-time in the Cup Series in 2019 when he won the 2019 Cup Series Rookie of the Year award. And whereas Hemrick, at the last race in Phoenix Raceway driving the number 18 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, was locked into the championship for Hemrick used a last lap overtime pass to not only win his first race of his NASCAR career, but also the 2021 Xfinity Series title and become the 2021 Xfinity Series champion. I now, therefore, T. Ross Young and this town council, town of Troutman, hereby recognize Daniel Hemrick for his past and present accomplishments, wishing him continued success in his racing career. It's not on the resolution, but I'm sure we will see more championships by Daniel. So with that, Daniel, if you'd like to speak, you're welcome to.
Big mask on? No.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, first off, I want to say thank you from my wife Kenzie and I. It is truly an honor. We didn't necessarily expect this, so it's for sure very welcoming. So we've been welcomed to this community with open arms, and can't thank each and every one of you for that. And thanks for the acknowledgement here tonight, and appreciate everyone being here to support it. Thank you.
Yes.
I promise I'll smile the other way too. Thank you. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you all for coming out, and look forward to, again, seeing many more championships, Daniel. So no pressure there from the town of Troutman, but we look forward to it. Congratulations. The next item on our agenda is our business spotlight, and we are spotlighting, speaking of photos, Meredith Marie Photography. Meredith has done an outstanding job of assisting us here at the town and making some of us who could break cameras look good. So I will read a certificate of recognition. This certificate of recognition on behalf of the Troutman Town Council, town residents, and the greater Troutman community, Mayor T. Ross Young recognizes Meredith Marie Photography as the Business Spotlight of the Month for your creativity, entrepreneurship, community involvement. We recognize and express our appreciation of your volunteerism and civic service to the town of Troutman, Troutman Council and staff. Congratulations in creating a successful and dynamic business adventure that is an inspiration to our community. Presented this 10th day of February. And Meredith, you're welcome to come up and speak.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council. It was a great pleasure to be able to photos, and it was just to honor police chiefs and officers and everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meredith? Mr. Mayor, if I may add some comments, please?
Yes, sir.
From the town staff's perspective, as you all know, when we wanted to update our website last year, one of the first things we thought is, okay, where are we going to get some nice professional pictures of ourselves? Because we had been using phones, and our journalist here volunteered one year and took pictures of us, and so that we would have some pictures, but we wanted to look professional as a staff and include some professional photographies, professional pictures of our area by a photographer. And Meredith absolutely stepped in when we reached out and offered to pay. She would accept any money as many times as she came up here. Sometimes it was in the afternoon, a lot of times in the evening. She has one of her two sons with her now, but the other one was in the middle of sports, and her husband, of course, would come in and try to help with the children and shuttle the parent duties as she was giving up her time from her family to make sure that we all look good for our staff and the community as we built the website. She has countless volunteer hours and is now volunteering and doing pictures also for TYAA, our Youth Athletic Association from the community. And I just wanted to give an extra pause. We couldn't put all of that on the plaque that you read to say, but for a mother with two young children and a spouse, we really appreciate highly. It was thousands of dollars had we had to pay for the services that she provided us and wouldn't accept any money for it. And we're very thankful that you all decided to recognize her for the spotlight, for her continued contributions to the community, not just the town directly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Yeah, thank you, Meredith, and again, thanks for making us look good. So we appreciate it. The next item on our agenda is our standing reports. We just have one tonight, and it is the J. Hoyt Hayes Memorial Troutman Library Quarterly Report. And I believe we've got our branch manager here. So it is so good to see you, and look forward to your report.
It's been a little while since I've been here.
Yes.
I am happy to report that there are a lot of changes in the library right now. We started in-person programming again in January, about mid-January we started back. We're not offering all of our programs quite yet. We're kind of like slowly dipping our toes in. But we are offering our toddler story times on Tuesdays, preschool story times on Fridays. We're doing one teen program a month on the third Thursday of the month. And we definitely brought back our adult Pinterest program because that is by far our most popular adult program. The biggest difference is now we do have to require registration for every program, whereas before story times didn't require that, but we have to have certain spots for each family to sit at for story time. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but we're making it work. We do still have our adult book club, but it started meeting outside of the library while we weren't doing in-person programming, and our patrons have really enjoyed that, and it's become a combined book club with Statesville. So now they are meeting at restaurants around Troutman and Statesville. So they go out after hours and they have dinner and talk about books. So if anyone is interested in attending that, they just need to contact our program specialist, Tamra, because she's in charge of all of our adult programs. We have several opportunities for passive programs, so those are just things that you can stop into the library anytime and pick something up or do it while you're in the library. We have monthly take and makes that we've been doing since everything kind of shut down, and we'll probably continue to just keep offering those because everybody really likes those. Right now, we got a ton of art craft kits from the North Carolina Museum of Arts for Black History Month. So we still have several of those left for the kids. And we also have something for adults. It is friendship soup ingredients and a recipe, so adults can come by and pick those up. We also started a little mailbox in the library, so each week we have a different writing prompt for the kids to write something down. So last week was tell us what you love about the library, so we got lots of cute little responses about that. So far, since we started programs, we have offered 11 programs and have already had 141 participants, so that's been pretty good. With our story times and our restrictions, like I said, that has been a little bit of a challenge, and we always have reached our capacity for that with a wait list, since we just have very limited space in the library, so hopefully that won't always be a problem. We are also planning our in-person summer reading programs. Right now, I'm serving on our summer reading committee for the whole county, and I am in charge of planning all of the programs for our 0 to 5 age range, so all of the early literacy activities. We are already planning all of the programs and purchasing supplies and getting everything ready well in advance, so we don't have to scramble at the last minute. I'm also working with Troutman Parks and Rec to have a special performance in the park one of the mornings in the summer, so we'll have more information on that in a little bit. We're also going to have a little bit of a different program offering this summer. We won't have as many programs, but we will have multiple offerings for the same program so that people can get in and fill those spots up, since there'll be limited spots available. I do have a few staffing updates. Last time I was here, I introduced you to our new program specialist, Tamara. She finally graduated with her master's in December from UNC Greensboro. She's really settled into the position. She's become a fixture in our library already, so she loves getting to know our patrons, and she has taken over making all of our adult book displays, and she is really doing a beautiful job at making local history displays in our display cabinet. We brought in a new person in August. Her name is Katie Bradley. She's our new part-timer. She previously worked in Statesville as a shelver, and she helps with some of the children's displays. And if you come into the library, you'll see a really beautiful display in our entryway. We have a huge teddy bear that has become a fixture that the children have named Mr. Bear. So every month they change Mr. Bear's display out and make it seasonal, and the kids are really enjoying that. I have a few updates for things in the library. As I was saying, Tamara, she has been working on local history displays. Last month she did a lot of research on local Black history. So we have a big display in the library of historically Black schools in Iredell County. The Unity High School, Dunbar High School, and Morningside School, she really did lots of research. She went above and beyond, so if you have time, definitely stop in the library to take a look at that. Our Storytime Nook was dedicated to the late Winky Powell. The Friends of the Library, through donations from her family, purchased a really large sign that is now hanging over our Storytime Nook, and it says Winky's Book Nook. So, that's really beautiful. We are currently working on a shelf cleanup project. Our shelves have just become packed with lots and lots of books. So we are pulling out some old stuff that hasn't circulated, and then we're just sending it back to Statesville since they have a lot more shelving area. And then we're making a lot more space for the popular books that our patrons want and the new items that are constantly coming in. And then later this month, we will be hosting the 6th graders of Iredell Charter. They're going to be coming out to the library, and I'll give them a tour, and I'm going to be teaching them how to use a library since their school doesn't have one, and they're a little nervous going into high school not knowing how to use a library. So That's what we've got going on.
Great. Any questions for Ms. Goodwin?
Yes, having you back kind of gives me a feeling of a little bit of normalcy returning, finally, but it's good to have you back.
Thank you very much.
The registration, Kelly, is that online or how is that done?
If you go to the library's website, we added a huge button to our home screen that says register for programs. So if you click on that, it'll show all of the programs for all three of our locations, so Statesville, Harmony, and Troutman, and you just scroll down to the program that you want to register for. If it's available to register for, the button will say register. If it's full, it will say, I think, add to wait list. If there's nothing there, then registration hasn't opened yet, and it'll tell you when registration opens for those programs. So they
Great.
tend to open about 2 weeks before the program starts.
Okay, great,
Like,
thank you.
ours have been filling very fast.
Yeah,
What
great.
about your computer lab? Is it still, you have to still register for that too?
No, you don't have to register to use a computer. Those are just open to the public whenever they want to come in. So
Perfect.
Please give our congratulations to Tamara as well.
absolutely,
So,
thank you.
thank you. The next item on our agenda is public comment. These are comments made to the council. You can express general comments and concerns. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And also, you must sign in at the podium and adhere to Policy 51 regarding comments to council. Also note that, again, we are still part of the state of emergency, which we hope will go away soon. And so we've got an opportunity for folks who are online to comment as well as send us comments directly to Town Hall, to our clerk. I will ask Mike if there's, Michael, any comments online?
No, sir.
Thank you. Kim, any? Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wants to speak to the council? Okay, great. Thank you. We will move on over to our next item, which is new business. And the first item is a text amendment, TA 2201, to the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, regarding decriminalization of the ordinance, Article 12.3. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to our planning director, Ms. Hare.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have before us this evening a request for a text amendment that's being made by staff. We are specifically asking that the UDO Article 12.3.1 be amended. Just next slide. I'm sorry, I don't have the remote. On August 25th of 2021, that's okay. Senate Bill 300 was passed by the General Assembly, which required local jurisdictions to remove all criminal penalties tied to ordinances, including zoning.
I know y'all are looking a little confused there. The two text amendments are out of order. I switched them from the backwards to the packets. Okay. Sorry.
As I said, Senate Bill 300 was passed by the General Assembly in August that required local jurisdictions to remove all criminal penalties that were tied to ordinances, including zoning and development regulations under 160D, which is the legislation that regulates planning in the state of North Carolina. Our town attorney advised town council to direct staff to make the necessary changes and bring those before the planning board for recommendation. We did that last month. The recommended amendment is before you on your screen. What we are asking or requesting be done is that Article 12.3.1, which is the section of our ordinance that outlines our criminal penalties, that be removed from the ordinance. There's another minor amendment that's created when that happens. Just the numbering from for the articles that follow will have to be renumbered once Article 12.3.1 is removed. So I'm just showing that and reflecting that in this slide as well and in the ordinance that's prepared for you this evening. Next. So this evening, as I stated, the Planning Board did unanimously recommend approval of this request. This is something that we are being required to do by the General Assembly. The actions this evening is this is a text amendment, so a public hearing is required. So open the public hearing, close the public hearing, and then actions would be to recommend approval with amendments, recommend no change, or continue this request to another meeting. Next slide. Since this is a text amendment, a consistency statement is required. Staff has prepared one for you when that time comes, after the public hearing is held and that motion has been made. That is all of staff's presentation this evening. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Ms. Hare. Council, any question for Ms. Hare?
I have one, and I mentioned that even though I was not here on the phone, and I didn't know if I didn't have a chance to speak at length about it, but there's one that I do have a question on, and I realize that what's listed here is what has been determined by attorney, I presume, what's required for us to correct or tweak, if you will, or change due to the legislation passed in 2021. But it's under the 12.3.1H, the public health and safety violation. To me, that kind of goes along with the allowance for an unsafe building. You know, in the planning and zoning, unsafe building, but, excuse me?
I think it's separate. It's a separate item. I think it's a separate item.
We're not talking about decriminalization, are we?
Yeah.
I'm a little lost then. I thought we were talking about decriminalization of all.
We are. You're correct.
And that's what I'm referring to. I'm looking here at the proposed ordinance.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
this is specific to one that the planning department suggested that has already been heard by the planning and zoning board. There are a list of decriminalizations that we will have to do, and this particular recommendation by planning board is not all inclusive of all the business that we will need to take toward them.
Mr. Hinkle, Michael, can you go back to the slide right there? Are you speaking about item D on
Yes.
that list? Okay.
Yes.
Um, that-
I'm a little
Okay, okay.
confused, but
Right.
You know, if I am, I'll-
The manager is correct. There's some other items that will have to be addressed that have similar language in them. But I do want to point out that this is just what's tied to the UDO. He's absolutely correct. There's other sections of our code of ordinances that address these types of issues that we will not decriminalize. Am I correct? So that like our minimum housing ordinance and those type of things will continue to have these requirements. So I wanted to point that out.
The reason I brought it up was, and I understand, yeah, the minimum housing, but it's talking about a violation involving any development, activity, or use of property which clearly endangers the public health and safety. So, you know, this would be maybe a minimum housing situation or something having to do with a yard or a field, real estate, ground, if you will.
And we still have the ability to pursue bringing those violations into compliance through civil penalty action. So I just want to make that very clear that we're not doing away with the ability to pursue code enforcement issues. We're just being required to do away with the criminal pursuit of
I
those.
understand, and that's right. You know, something like that to me, and I'm talking about someone who grossly violates this and it really puts the public health or safety in danger, is what I'm talking about in the decriminalization of that particular statement or article, section D, line D, whatever. I'm looking at this as not simply something that somebody letting their grass grow a little too tall or something. I'm talking about something that's clearly a health and safety danger that as I said, I equate that with an unsafe building, which would be under minimal housing and so forth. And that's why I'm questioning that. If the attorney has interpreted that as something we have to remove, then so be it. But I was just questioning that is that something we want to decriminalize if we don't have to decriminalize that because of a clear and present danger that someone is doing on or about their property that's a risk to the public.
Absolutely hear you and agree with the foundation of what you're saying, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This is as a direct recommendation of what the state did. It's not that the staff or our town council said, let's take this out. We would love to have that ability still left in our code of ordinances. However, I will say some of the worst properties we have had in our town limits within the last year, we were able to get into compliance with the civil penalties, and we did not have to utilize the criminal part. And if you look at what the criminal charge is and what it actually accomplishes, if we went through with a criminal charge for some of these situations, it actually is more minor than what we can do and what things we can levy on the civil side. So on the surface, I absolutely agree with you 100% in the intent. It sounds like, in general, that if we can keep a criminal enforcement, that that's going to be more stringent or stronger to pursue than a civil side. But as we have a couple examples within the Inglewood community directly, the civil side actually is what got them in compliance, because it can lead up to us seizing their property.
I just, again, you know, and I hear and understand if that's, you know, if legislature is, but I did at least want to discuss it and clear it up in my mind as well.
Certainly, yes, sir.
One other thing I might point out is you still, even under this ordinance, you still have authority to seek injunctions. And then if somebody violates an injunction, they can be held in contempt of court. So that's a pretty heavy hand right there. And that's, if things are really bad, that's the typical thing that Troutman as well as other towns have done to stop things, is get an injunction.
Thank you.
I do have one question. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem got my gears turning a little bit. Just the way this is worded, is it safe to assume that this is just simply posing a danger? If we have a situation where we have an unsafe building and say someone does get hurt, that does not, and so that's a separate issue, right? And that definitely criminal
Could be, yes.
potentially, right? Okay.
Absolutely, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Under your regular code of ordinances, chapter 6 deals with building and building regulations and unsafe building. And under there, that doesn't have to be decriminalized. And it says that a willful violation of a final order of code enforcement is a misdemeanor. And then there's also the minimum housing code as well, which has misdemeanor, and that part does not have to be decriminalized. This is only the UDO.
Yeah. All right, we're good. Thank you for the questions. Any other questions for Ms. Hare? Okay. Any comments from the public on this text amendment? Please come up and state your name and please sign in at the podium.
Sorry, this is my first meeting,
All
so
right.
I wasn't sure if I could raise my hand now.
Yeah.
Or what, I should just be listening. But, I was just wondering if this is.
Ma'am, we need you to sign in and state your name before you begin your comments, please.
Okay, my name's Alicia Malatesta.
Okay, thank you.
I was just wondering if this is for commercial buildings? Is that included in commercial buildings that you guys are talking about, or is it purely residential?
I think she's on the next topic.
This would apply to all buildings.
Okay, that was it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, you've heard from staff, and you've also had a chance to ask questions and hear from the public. At this time, we will consider adoption of ordinance 0122, titled an ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance 0122?
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
Motion is made to recommend the approval or adoption of ordinance 0122. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item would be to consider a statement of consistency, and the staff has provided a couple of statements here. Is there a statement of consistency by the council? And please read the full statement.
I'll be glad to read it. I will read it, Mr. Mayor. Regarding consistency, I make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and Unified Development Ordinance, as it would bring the ordinance into consistency with Senate Bill 300. Further, the text amendment is reasonable in the public interest, addressing the need. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong consistency statement. I apologize. No, I'm sorry.
No, that's right. You're right.
I-
Yep, you're right.
Folks, I'll be with it in a minute here. Further, the text amendment is reasonable and in the public interest, addressing the need to decriminalize the ordinance and utilize civil penalties as the preferred method of bringing violations into compliance.
Motions on the floor regarding the statement of consistency. Is there a second to the statement of consistency?
I'll make that second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made. Any question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes, and that's our statement of consistency. Move on to our next item, which is another text amendment related to TA 2202, the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance, again regarding addition of language regarding regulating commercial accessory structures. I will now declare this public hearing open. Turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is a text amendment request being made by staff at the request of our Design Review Board. This is an amendment to Article 3.4, which is the chapter of our Unified Development Ordinance that addresses additional uses, additional use standards. Just to give you some background, in 2021, the town received 2 applications for accessory structures that were associated with commercial uses. The UDO addresses accessory structures for residential properties, but is silent on these uses when they're located in commercial districts. The UDO does require, however, the Design Review Board's approval of all non-residential structures. So when we received these applications, we did take these buildings, their architectural approval, before the Design Review Board. Staff presented these commercial accessory structures, and after discussion, the Design Review Board directed staff to create language in our UDO that would regulate commercial accessory structures. Staff presented some draft language. We went back and forth with the board a couple times and reviewed that language. Mr. Hinkle was involved with that as the liaison to that board. The board was very interested in regulating those buildings' location. They wanted to be able to state where an accessory structure could sit on a commercial piece of property, but they wanted to provide some flexibility on aesthetics. So after a couple of different rewrites, the Design Review Board recommended the following language be presented to the Planning Board and Council for your consideration. This is the language that was presented to the Planning Board and approved by them. I will just walk through this very quickly with you all. This will be a new section added as Article 3.4 is Section 3.4.3.1, accessory structures commercial. The first requirement that these commercial accessory structures will be subject to all other applicable regulations of the ordinance. We wanted to make that very clear. The second item is that commercial accessory structures will not be erected in the front yard of any principal structure, provided that fences up to 4 feet in height shall be allowed within the front yard setback. The third requirement is that commercial accessory structures shall not be erected in any required side yard setback, provided that fences up to 8 feet in height shall be allowed within required setbacks. The fourth item is that commercial accessory structures, that the rear yard setback will be no closer than 15 feet from the rear property line or meet the required property boundary buffer, whichever is greater. I do want to point out in your packet, there is an additional requirement that the Planning Board suggested. They wanted to make sure that fences would be allowed here. So we added that fences up to 8 feet would be allowed in the rear setback as well. That is in your packet as would be part of your motion. The next item is that accessory structures shall not exceed the height of the principal structure on the property. And then finally, that any type of mechanical structures, such as heat pumps, air conditioners, emergency generators, water pumps, that these are not allowed in the front yard, in the front setback. They may be allowed in side and rear yard setbacks if less than 48 feet in height. 48 inches, thank you. That would be quite a tall structure there. But the planning board did hear this at their last meeting and recommended approval. So this evening, before you, the actions are to recommend approval with amendments or suggestions, recommend no change to the UDO, or to continue this request to a later meeting. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Thank you, Ms. Hare. Any questions for Ms. Hare on this amendment? Thank you, Mr. Hinkle, for being part of that. Does the UDO discuss, or was it discuss grandfathering of properties, structures? Is there any?
That's part of our ordinance, yes.
Okay.
There's a section there that talks about, grandfathered structures, and it would be assumed that any of these structures that are there prior to this being adopted would technically be grandfathered. They would not be subject to this.
Okay.
This would just apply to any new accessory commercial structures going forward.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Hearing none, we will declare this public hearing closed. Council, you've heard from staff regarding this text amendment, and had a chance to deliberate on it. There's a couple of options here as we consider the ordinance. At this time, I will ask, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0222?
Also moved.
Okay, motion is made to recommend the adoption of ordinance 0222. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item is to consider a statement of consistency, and I believe staff has provided a couple of examples, potential statements. Is there a statement of consistency by this council? And please read the full statement.
I'll make that, Mr. Mayor. Make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and the Unified Development Ordinance, as it would provide consistent regulation of accessory structure for commercial uses, promoting the desired goal of enhancing the aesthetics of downtown. Amendment is reasonable and in the public interest.
Great. Motion is made regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second to that statement?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is comments from our town council, myself, and the staff. So I'll first open it up to council. I'll start with Mr. Oxer.
I was able to participate. I think I wish Councilman Harris was here to officially pass the torch, but I did participate in both orientation and then the first annual meeting of the Centralina organization. It was very great. They the orientation by the staff was phenomenal. The onboarding was I couldn't have asked for a better onboarding. They were right on top of it with all the questions that I had, and then even introduced topics that I wasn't even aware of. So it was a great experience. The meeting went very well. We were able to adopt the budget, get things going for the next fiscal year, and then also made it very clear to all the municipalities that we do have a lot of opportunities that, of course, that they're willing to assist with regarding grant acquisitions for a variety of topics. So I know that that's something that we are not alone. That's something every municipality can definitely use, but hopefully we can definitely get in line, do what we need to do, and do some good things here in the town. So,
Great.
it's a great experience.
Great. Look forward to your next grant.
First.
Awesome. Mr. Hinkle?
Well, I participated in the first Lake Norman Regional Transportation Committee meeting last night virtually. Been off for several years, so it's kind of like riding a bicycle and, getting back on, getting a little wobbly. As we were mentioning before the meeting, learning the terms again and so forth. And my associate, Council Lady Harris, also joined in virtually, and so we both kind of got a little baptism by total dunking, if you will. So anyhow, but I have got a list of some things that they are working on, and I think most of them are the same that former Council Lady Sally Williams had mentioned before, so I won't repeat them, but I did make copies, and if anybody, or a copy, and I'll be glad to give these to Ms. Davis, Kim Davis. She can make copies for any of the council members that would like to see it. It pertains basically to Iredell County. There's a long list for Mecklenburg County. Not quite so long for Iredell County, but Troutman is included in some of these, and I've got a list here at just to keep you apprised of what's going on. But the biggest thing I think that's near and dear to our heart is the realignment of Houston Road down at Highway 21 with Flower House Loop. Again, I always want to say Autumn Leaf, I don't know why. Flower House Loop. So that they're hoping to let that contract in 2023. So I know that's still another year. But thank goodness, at least we're moving forward, because that is another one of those that was on the fast track and then somehow got derailed for several years, and now it's back on the fast track. So I'm glad to hear that. Just as I say, there's some others, but that's the one I think that's the closest at this particular moment in time to our hearts to get that straightened out down there. So I did want to pass that along, and hopefully by March we'll be able to meet in person at Town Hall in Mooresville. If anyone's interested, you're certainly welcome as a guest to come and listen to discussions. Take place at Mooresville Town Hall, 6:30 in the evening, and generally there's a meal served. Has been in the past. I presume they still do. If not, there's vending machines there. So you're welcome to attend if you would like. I'm not sure if they're going to do virtually, if they're meeting personally, if they'll continue the offering it via Zoom or virtually, but we'll see on that. But did want to bring that, at least that little bit of information to your attention.
Thank you. Mr. Now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to congratulate the people that we recognize tonight, the Klontz family and the Troutman family, and also recognition of Daniel Hemrick. I know Daniel, and I've known him for over 15 years, and he's turned out to be a great young man, into a great husband and a great dad, and now he's going to be a NASCAR champion and represent NASCAR, and he's from Troutman, so he's going to do a good job, and I'm proud to say he's from here. I also like to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day, and please take care of each other. Thank you.
Ms. Harris?
In case we have a different audience than we did the other night, I just want to say Happy Black History Month to everyone. And as I stated the other night, get to know someone different, someone who doesn't look like you. I challenge each and everyone listening and the ones here in the room tonight. Also, as Councilman Hinkle, I was going to call you Henry. Councilman Hinkle stated, yes, I did attend the Lake Norman Transportation meeting, and I have a list this long of acronyms that I have to look up because I had no idea what they were talking about. So I wanted to attend that meeting, even though I am the alternate to just to get to know, just to get the feel for what they were going to be talking about, and just in case Mr. Hinkle's ever out, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about and voting on and things like that. So that was quite an experience. So again, happy, as Councilman now said, happy Valentine's Day is my son's birthday as well. So we get to celebrate two
Sister's
times.
birthday.
Really? So we get to celebrate 2 times. And congratulations to everyone who we recognize tonight. And Jean, it's so good to see you. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. As I said the other night, again, appreciate the comments from Ms. Harris regarding Black History Month, and in our community, trying to get to know someone who doesn't look like you, and engaging each other. It's amazing that people say, well, I don't know who my neighbor is. I've never met them, never talked to them, and we pass in the night kind of thing. So if nothing else for this month, get to know your neighbor and try to get to engage with each other. That's who we are as a town, and look forward to what that can bring about. So I challenge folks to do that. Happy Valentine's Day, again, as I said on Monday as well. Look forward to, I didn't know there was a couple of birthday celebrations that would be happening, but look forward to celebrating Valentine's Day as well. I would say I appreciate the council's diligence and your comments tonight on your activity, learning to support our town through service of various committees and roles that you take on. They're usually not a lot of lights and activity around that, but it's important that that we engage in these various committees to represent our town, and I really appreciate what you all are doing to do that. So, again, I appreciate that. At this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Wyatt for any staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Just to make you aware, and those in the audience and that may be viewing that are not aware, County Commissioner Chairman James Mallory put out a notice today effectively ending mask mandate that Iredell County has in place effective February 11th at 5 o'clock p.m. And the state also had news this afternoon to where they are, due to the numbers getting closer to normal, if there is such a thing as using the word normal and COVID in the same sentence, and it be positive. But in this situation, and conferring with a couple staff members, we also will be removing our mandatory mask mandate tomorrow at 5 o'clock p.m. as well, for those that may enter town hall and do business. That does not mean that people can't wear a mask. We're not getting into the side of whether it is or it is not. I would just like to take this opportunity to remind everyone the reason we as Troutman went to a mandatory mask mandate inside of town hall was because our staff is small in numbers. And if we miss 4 or 5 people, then effectively we would have to shut the building down and not be able to do business to the public. It's not like our counterparts to the north and south and even the county, to where they have several hundred or more than thousands of employees that they could move on if they had 40 or 50. If we had 40 or 50, that means we'd have to borrow employees from another place. But the reason we had that in effect was to make sure that we had enough staff here that could effectively handle business if we need be. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you all have any before I move to the next topic.
Into business tomorrow?
Yes, sir, at 5 o'clock. We're echoing the county's policy on when it will end.
Did you say the state also, or did you just say the county?
I said the state had some comments, but I did not say what their policy was. I've not had time to review it.
That's fine, I just thought you said something about the state, thank you.
We also, I would like to take this opportunity to discuss, met with one of our land developers. I don't know that they continue as much as she one time did, but she still owns a good bit of land in the area. And as some of you on council can recall, when the development project Colonial Crossing came to be, was very instrumental in asking that a path through that, Cheryl's Pass. Lynn Hare, our planning director, and I have met with the individual several times now that development is well underway for Colonial Crossing. I went and walked with a couple historians and others to make sure, as to remind everyone when that was one of the factors when Colonial Crossing came to be developed, was that they tried to protect the area known as Cheryl's Pass as much as possible, and that we define what that path would be. That property will then be donated from the developer to the town, which in a sense basically will be a nature trail through their development from one end to the other. A lot of people may ask, well, why is Cheryl's Pass important, and why did this individual think it's such a topic that several $1,000s in property right-of-ways and others could be at risk to ensure that it remained. Unfortunately, in history, if we don't protect it or preserve it, it will fade away and melt back into the ground, so to speak. And if you went through that area, you can plainly tell where a path one time existed, but over the hundreds of years, and for those historian buffs, history buffs that are out there that understands our history with Fort Dobbs and just north of Statesville, this Cheryl's Pass was the path that when colonists settled this area, that they went north and south. So at one point in time, it was, for lack of a better comparison, either I-40 or I-77, and anybody that came and went, they went through there. And for a large couple 100-mile swath, they had to come through here to go north and south. And that's why it was historical, and the landowner near there felt that it should be preserved. I will say it's ironic, because nobody did it on purpose, that the development then became named Colonial Crossing, when in fact this path goes back to the colonial days. But we have met several times, and we are making progress on getting that identified with our Planning and Zoning Board chairman and others, and just wanted to give you an update on that. I'll be glad to answer any questions you all may have. Pass. Yes. It will be a path for us, but it is historically Cheryl's Pass.
Any questions for Mr. Wyatt or staff? All right, thank you. We will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318-11A5 to discuss property acquisition. Is there a motion to go into closed session? Motion is made by Mr. Hinkle, seconded by Ms. Harris. Who do we need in the closed session?
We'll just need our clerk, town attorney, if he would like to remain as well.
Okay. With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating. Good to see you.